And this is especially special this time around because the brilliant Glenn Whipp is here. If you have one guy on your live stream to talk about Oscar prognostication, Glenn Whipp is your guy, a really important friend of mine for a long time, and also a brilliant guy. So hi, Glenn Whipp. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I can't
So
believe it's
happy.
taken me this long to pop into breakfast all day.
Breakfast all day. Real fast. So I like to do a little sound check before we launch into everything. So let us know how we sound. How does Glenn sound? How do I sound? Did you bring your ballots? We have ballots that are filled out. Glenn, talk for a second. Tell the folks about how your award season has been going.
It's been going a long time. It's been going since like July 21st when Oppenheimer and Barbie arrived in theaters. And it was like, okay, maybe talk about these movies for the next 8 months, 9 months. I don't know, too
Yes.
long. I've run out of things to write about Oppenheimer and Barbie. So
Oh,
I'm
but we're gonna have to think of more.
well, I'm not writing, I'm talking.
This is true.
So
Well, I'm so happy you're here. We have some questions here. Where's Alonso? Sadly, Alonso is not here today. Alonso has COVID. Alonso tested positive for COVID today. He texted me this morning and said, I got a scratchy throat. I'm feeling a little loopy. I said, ooh, do you maybe have COVID? And sure enough, he does. So very, very sad. Sending all good, warm, healing chicken soup thoughts to Alonso. Courtney says Glenn sounds a little quieter than I do. You guys are gonna appreciate the ninja like stealthy wit of the brilliant Glenn Whipp. So we're so glad you're here. Yeah, Alonzo can't make it, but whoever thought you want to share with Alonzo, thank you, Stephen and Christine, Chick and Andrea. All our friends are here. Todd, Angel, thank you so much for being here. Yes, thank you, and good thoughts for Alonzo. Okay, so if you didn't print out a ballot, that's okay because I'm going to go through these things step by step, and Glenn's going to chime in with his brilliance. It's not all about Barbenheimer.
not
Some things
all,
are,
but close.
but
Close.
close. So here's what I was thinking we're
Actually,
going to
it's
do.
just one of those movies,
Yes.
really.
Hi, Jesse. Thank you for your good thoughts for Alonzo. Nancy, thank you for your good thoughts. Christopher as well. Matthew as well. Nancy as well. Glenn, this is the thing that I do every time, my little romper room segment of my live streams. And they're very divisive. Some people think they're awesome and they enjoy the shout outs. And I like to acknowledge our wonderful folks out there. But some people are like, get on with it. So I'm trying to
You're balancing.
thread that needle there. If you've not subscribed to our channel yet, we'd love for you to do that because we're going to keep doing award season stuff until the Oscars happen. And then the summer's coming and then fall movie season comes. So anytime's a great time for breakfast all day. And also, I've got a newsletter. If you've not subscribed to that yet, that would be great. You can do that at ChristyLemire.com. Glenn Whipp is a proud subscriber to the Saturday Matinee newsletter.
That is true. And it's
Are you getting
delightful
value?
every Saturday.
Are you getting value from your Saturday morning nuggets from me?
I keep track of your whereabouts. I know what your running schedule is. I know that you're in serious training. I know, it's get good to get those updates.
Yeah, I
And movies
promise.
too. You
Yeah.
drop in a little nugget about movies or yeah. So
I promise that the running talk will stop because the marathon is a week from this Sunday. But first, the marathon of award season will come to a close. What I thought we would do is this. I want to go category by category in the way that they are listed on the ballot. They're alphabetical on the ballot, but I want to save director and picture for the very end. How's that sound to you?
it sounds great because those like no one knows who's going to win those two Oscars, right? So
I think those are like the easiest of them all. But this is what we're talking about when we talk about Glenn Whipp's
yeah.
stealthy wit. All right, so let's start with Best Actor. Actor in a leading role. Your nominees are Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction, Glenn Whipp, who's going to win Best Actor.
Yeah, it's funny. I for a minute, I think it was after Paul Giamatti went to the In and Out after he won the Golden Globe, and he was like, there's these photos popping up online of him sitting at the Westwood In and Out with his Golden Globe statue on the table. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I think Paul Giamatti is going to win the Oscar. I think that just speaks mostly to my love for In and Out as a native Southern Californian,
You are.
and not to any kind of like logic, like the guy starring in the movie. Spoiler alert! That's going to win Best Picture.
Oh man.
Probably, maybe we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, playing the title character in Oppenheimer, 3 hours,
Hmm.
uh, biopic, great man biopic, great men biopics. That's the lead actor. Like any you know, think of Gandhi, Ray Charles,
Right.
Lincoln. I mean, it's like a million movies. So yeah, and then Killian Murphy has won the SAG Award, BAFTA. He's won everything. He's winning the Oscar too.
Right. As they say in Lady Bird, it's the titular role.
Yes,
Is
it
it not?
is.
So
Yes,
I
it is.
agree. I also have Killian Murphy. Giamatti is a nice idea, but I agree on Killian Murphy. Okay. Actor in a supporting role. We have Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction, Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling in Barbie, Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. This is also, I think, one of the more easy ones to call. This is Robert Downey Jr. And it's like the narrative is there. He's earned it. The comeback is complete. It's a really juicy role for him to show his understated dramatic depth. He's been Tony Stark for like 20 years now, and this reminds everybody, oh, right, he can really act.
But you had such a big smile on your face when you said Ryan Gosling's name.
Okay, so here's the thing. I wish he had won something because I love what he's doing in Barbie so much. And it's not just him being this adorable himbo. Like there's pathos to it, and his comic timing is perfect. And there's an arc, and I feel like he's been massively overlooked all award season long because he's always in the category with Robert Downey Jr.
And that's what's wrong with award season. Like, how could he not win something? Like, why is Robert Downey Jr. winning everything? I think Gosling. I did vote for Gosling in L.A. Film Critics,
I think I did too. We tried to
and
make that happen,
really,
didn't we?
we really did. Gosling, Gosling and Rachel McAdams. We
We tried
wanted
to
a
make that
reunion.
Notebook reunion
Yeah,
happen.
but yeah, Downey's going to win.
Yes, I agree. All right, actress. This to me is the hardest one of the night. And you and I have already had many conversations about this. All right, we have Annette Bening in Naiad, Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller in Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan in Maestro, and Emma Stone in Poor Things. Right? This very second of your life, Glenn Whipp, who's going to win Best Actress?
Yeah, I had to file my predictions piece for the LA Times, so there's no going back from saying Lily Gladstone. I think just because, and I think since the last time you and I spoke, I talked to more Academy members, and I talked to some who were like, for sure, Emma Stone's winning this. Lily Gladstone just doesn't have enough screen time. It's really a supporting performance. It's not a lead performance.
No.
But a lot of people seem to have come around, even those naysayers, on, it's a great performance. It's a great, powerful turn. She is the movie.
Yeah.
And we really want to see her win the Oscar,
Yeah.
And sometimes you're voting for, I mean, the Oscars aren't about the best. A lot of times they're about the most. In this case, yeah, that maybe now I'm talking myself out of it because it's kind of a subtle performance, isn't it? And usually big showy performances like Emma Stone's and Poor Things will win the Oscar. But I think people really would like to see she would be the first Native American to win lead actress Oscar. I think people want to see that. Think people have been really taken with her story as she's
Yeah.
moved through award season. So I think it's Lily Gladstone.
It's so funny. When you and I talked the other day, I was certain it'd be Emma Stone for the reasons that you just mentioned, which is that actors can look at that performance in Poor Things and marvel at how she has to be 5 different and distinct versions of the same character, create the through line, create the cohesion, but make each step of Bella's development distinct. And it's a big, broad, fun performance, but also so technically precise. And I thought, oh, they're going to go for that. As you say, it's most acting. We can see it on screen. But what Lily Gladstone is doing, as you say, it's like the understated kind of simmering heart and soul is cohesive in its own way, in a more understated way. And there's something you said to me when I was on the phone with you the other day about that at the SAG Awards, the cutaway to Emma Stone, just like the biggest smile on her face, clapping so hard for Lily Gladstone's win. And I think like that sentiment will prevail throughout. I mean, again, it's like many, many thousands of people are in the acting branch. It's not a monolithic thing, but I agree with you that like sentiment will prevail, and she's very deserving.
Yeah, Emma Stone wanted Lily Gladstone to win. I bet Emma Stone is voting. Well, maybe not. You know actors, but she might be voting for Lily. And yeah, I think the sentiment's going to carry her. But I mean,
agree.
even with Emma Stone and usually when I say most acting or most this, and we'll get to other categories where like most is not the best. With Emma Stone, I think most acting is like pretty freaking remarkable.
Oh, it's an incredible feat.
I would vote. I mean, but last year Kate Blanchett seemed undeniable for Tar, and she didn't win. So,
and that's a showy performance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's so tough, but ask me again in 5 minutes and I might feel differently. But yeah, I'm going to go with Lily Gladstone as well. Okay, animated feature. I think this one's really hard. We have The Boy and the Heron. I'm sorry, I didn't do supporting actress yet. Apologies. The alphabet is tricky. Supporting actress, Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks in The Color Purple, America Ferrera in Barbie, Jodie Foster in Nyad, Davine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. This is the lock of the night.
Yeah, it feels like we talked about Robert Downey Jr., but Davine Joy Randolph has won even more. I was like, when I wrote about the SAG Awards, I looked up her Wikipedia page and she had won like 36. And then somebody tweeted because they had looked up their IMDb page, and according to her IMDb page, she's won 57. So I don't know what she's doing with all these awards, where she's putting them, but she's going to have one more, and probably the one that she wants to prominently display.
And she's coming up with a really like special and specific thank you speech for each one too. Like I was at the Spirit Awards and she won there. You were not at LAFCA, but she won at LAFCA, and that was a lovely speech as well. So she's having to come up with something different to say for each time. But yeah, and so deserving, and she's so wonderful in The Holdovers and brings real depth to it, but is also very funny in subtle ways.
Yeah, great choice for every reason.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's do animated feature. Sorry for the confusion. The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I would assume, Glenn, that Spider-Verse is the favorite, but I can imagine a world in which The Boy and the Heron wins because it's like Miyazaki's quote unquote final film. He's a master, like is semi-autobiographical. At this moment in time, what did you pick?
I picked Spider-Verse just because more people have probably seen it. I think the one thing that gives me pause for Spider-Verse is that it's the middle story. There's going to be a part 2, and they already rewarded the first movie, and they might want to reward the third movie. Are they going to reward the second movie, or are they going to reward all 3? Especially when there's a Miyazaki movie that they could vote for now instead of that.
And honor the legend, right?
And
honor the master.
Legend, even though maybe it's not his last film because he's retired before. We've heard that before, but I mean, yeah, I think Spider-Verse, just because more voters have seen it. I don't know that everyone took the time to watch The Boy and the Heron, but it's a close race. It could go either way. Yeah. But Spider-Verse is my pick.
I would also pick Spider-Verse. Charles Solomon, awards expert, also picks Spider-Verse. So I love them both. I love Spider-Verse. It was on my top 10 list this past year. Like the first one was so groundbreaking, and then they did even more with the next one. So it's impressive. So I think that's probably going to happen as well. Okay.
Charles Solomon animation expert. I don't think
Animation
awards
expert Charles Solomon. Yes,
Because
he's your guy.
he doesn't. That's about all the categories that he votes in. No
That's
shade
it.
for Charles, but
That's it. No, he's knowledgeable. That's his thing.
yeah,
He's niching down, as they say in
yes,
YouTube. So cinematography: El Conde, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. I love the look of Poor Things, but I think Oppenheimer is going to win.
yeah. This is one of the below the line categories that Oppenheimer takes. 13 nominations. So let's start counting how many it could win.
Okay, I think I counted that. I think it's going to get 6.
Ooh, okay. We're gonna have
But
some disagreements down the
we'll
line.
get to that. We'll get to that. Okay, but so far though, we've got Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr. cinematography.
It's 3.
That's 3. Do you think Oppenheimer should win for cinematography? Like, is that what you would pick? Courtney's asking, what would you pick? I would pick Poor Things, but Oppenheimer is a huge achievement as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad choice among the nominees. LA Film Critics, our group, we gave it to Poor Things, and I was happy about that.
Yeah,
It's pretty great. Robbie
that's a
Ryan.
good one. Okay, costume design. This is one of my controversial choices. All right,
Ooh.
you got Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. I think Poor Things wins this one.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you agree?
I was waiting for you to say like Napoleon. I was just like, you're controversial. I mean, it's now we're getting into like, what the hell happened to Barbie? Like,
Okay.
why is Oppenheimer winning all these Oscars?
It has
And
gravitas.
so far we haven't said Barbie for anything, have we?
And we won't for a while.
And not even costumes, really? But the problem with the costumes, and Oscar precedents come and go. I mean, they can always be broken, but usually they go to period pieces. And Barbie is a contemporary film. So that's why I went with Poor Things, because it's kind of got a real mix of eras and materials, and there's a whole lot going on in Poor Things. And obviously Poor Things more Oscar nominations than Barbie. Even managed a director nomination, didn't it?
It did,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
got makeup and hairstyling, and Barbie
Yeah.
did not. So here's why I think I agree with all that. I think Poor Things will win costume because it's so innovative, it's so wild and out there and creative, and also so distinct for every period again of Bella's development. And a lot of work went into meticulously recreating all those Barbie outfits. But I can imagine that the prevailing sentiment will be like, oh, they're just copying a thing that already exists, and that's they in painstaking detail, and they went deep cuts on Barbie dolls that people hadn't ever heard of. But I think that what the costume design does in Poor Things is a reflection of her development, and that's crucial as well.
Good reasoning. Good reasoning.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Okay, we're going to skip directing and do that toward the end. Documentary feature. Bobby Wine, The People's President, The Eternal Memory, Four Daughters, To Kill a Tiger, 20 Days in Mariupol. Glenn Whipp, what do you pick?
I think 20 Days in Mariupol.
I agree.
Just intense. Remains sadly. I mean, I think every elected official in the United States should be watching this movie before they I'm not going to get into politics.
Yeah.
I don't know the breakfast all day political junkie audience, but yeah, it's a hard watch, but really essential document of the early days of Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of that in the comments as well. A lot of folks are picking that as well. Matthew and T Love Hater and Jesse. And I, for a long time, Brian asking, where's Alonso? Alonso has COVID, sadly, so he is at home resting. So for a long time, I thought it would be Four Daughters. I had Four Daughters on my top 10 list. It's excellent. I've done a couple of Q&As with Kauthar Ben-Hania, the director. It's so innovative, the use of recreation and like the deep rooted truths that emerge from that artifice. Like that's really fascinating. It's really emotional. But 20 Days in Mariupol is just essential viewing, as you say, and I believe it will win for the same reasons that Navalny won last year. That it's a statement. It's a good fuck you to Putin.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen, and it deserves it. Like I used to be with the Associated Press for a long time. I never did anything like this. The foresight and the presence of mind and the perseverance to stay when everything around you is crumbling and to get that footage out and to change hearts and minds and really open up eyes as to what was happening. It's just an essential piece of journalism. So I think.
Yeah, I think it easily wins. I
All
think it's
right,
also
so
the one that most people have seen out of the 5.
okay. That makes sense. Okay, so this is one I need you to do for me because I've not seen any of the documentary shorts. I was remiss in usually I try to get to all of those shorts, all 15 of them, and like the documentary shorts are always a total bummer. But but
You
here
don't want those things to bring you down, is what you're saying.
I like to be a sunny
Okay.
presence
Okay.
on the internet. But I just missed them this year for whatever reason. But here are your nominees for a documentary short: The ABCs of Book Banning, The Barber of Little Rock, Island in Between, The Last Repair Shop, and Nine Eye and Wipo. Glenn Whipp, what wins?
There's some inspiration. I mean, you should watch these, Christy. There's some inspirational. Nine Eye and Wipo is adorable Asian immigrant grandmothers.
Okay.
People love that movie. In fact, I think it could win.
Okay.
I ended up going with Last Repair Shop
Mm-hmm.
because it's a LA Times Studios co-production with Searchlight, so it
Okay.
made my overlords happy that I picked it. They really want that movie to win, and I think it could. It's a documentary about the people who repair musical instruments for LA Unified School District. So there's like 150,000 instruments, and these people keep them in fine tune. They keep them going for the students. LA Unified just announced like a capital program. I think $15 million to keep this program going. So it's very much in the news. And so I'm thinking the hometown crowd, the home
Oh.
crowd comes out for Last Repair Shop. And it's a really good movie too.
That makes sense. I have seen more ads for that than for anything else. And
Right.
now that you're saying it's got Searchlight behind it, that makes sense. I've seen more pop-up ads and, banner ads on the various websites I go to. So maybe for that reason, as you say, like they got it in front of more people's eyes. A lot of folks in the comments, though, are saying ABCs of book banning. Sarv Newark and Matthew and Val in New York, they're all saying that one. Does that have a chance, do you
Yes.
think?
Yeah, for sure. Because that one is the first movie directed by Sheila Nevins, who
Hmm.
is the longtime head of HBO
Yeah.
documentaries. So very well connected. Who doesn't want to, you know, speak out against book banning? Um, I think the other two that I mentioned are better movies,
Okay.
but this one is topical and it has Sheila Nevins. I think any one of those three could win. It's a really competitive category.
Okay. Yeah, we're seeing some love for Last Repair Shop in the comments too. So yeah, Josephine loved it. Thomas thought it was inspirational. So yeah, that sounds like a one to check out as well. Okay. Film editing. We have Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. This is another Oppenheimer one, I believe.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a Christopher Nolan timeline movie that actually kind of was easier to follow than a lot of his timeline movies. So hats off to the editing in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's more accessible. I think a lot of what Nolan does is so chilly and cerebral and it's such a puzzle. Like Tenet in particular felt like it was for him to please himself with how complicated it could be to the detriment of our actual connection with the material. So, but I thought this was, yeah, it's a back and forth structure, but it's always easy to follow and it's propulsive. It's a 3-hour movie that does not feel like a 3-hour movie.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But I felt like Killers of the Flower Moon was a 3.5 hour movie that didn't feel like a 3.5 hour movie.
That's the great
But
Thelma.
yeah.
We have some different votes here. Rob Crosby says Anatomy of a Fall should win for editing. That courtroom scene, the back and forth there, was very effective.
I mean, a worthy nominee for sure. It's just going to be one of these. It's going to be interesting to see just how big of a wave Oppenheimer has,
Yeah.
um, and how many people will be riding that wave. But I think editing for sure, because it's very, again, going back to like most, how a lot of Oscars go to the most. The
Mm-hmm.
editing in Oppenheimer is very obvious. It's very, I mean, not in a bad way, but I mean, you can really see that it's a edited movie. I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody won this category.
But we know
It,
why that is. Though. That's like the behind the scenes finagling to make that a usable film.
yeah. But
But when you talk, go ahead.
it's really poorly edited though, for the most part.
Yeah, but it's done.
Yeah. I'm still relitigating Oscars. I never forget the bad choices, but yeah.
Well, along those lines, though, when I think about editing and the thing you just spoke to about the editing you can see versus the editing you can't see, I think of that year that Whiplash won over Boyhood.
Mm,
Whiplash is edited like jazz. It's
hmm.
showy and it's sparkly and fun, whereas Boyhood is like the understated cohesive connection of 12 years of footage. I think we probably picked Boyhood, knowing us at LAFCA, but Whiplash won because it's like, "Bagow, bagow."
Do you remember what we picked in LAFCA this year for editing?
I don't.
Okay.
I think it was Anatomy of a Fall,
See? There
wasn't
we
it?
go. Look
I
at
don't
us
know.
being all smart and
We have
I
really good
always,
taste.
when I'm voting for that category in LAFCA, I'm always self-conscious about like, don't go for the, how'd you put it? The
What?
the jazzy, I like your little dance there. I'm not going to try to recreate that, but yeah, I always am self-conscious about don't vote for just like the most, the real flashy editing. Look at, I mean, I think like Ladybird as an example of a beautifully edited 90-minute movie
Mhm.
that really immersed you in the story and the characters. The editing was a function of that.
You know what we just watched recently? This is totally off topic. We just showed Nick Fargo recently, and that movie is like
Mm,
an hour and 35
yeah,
minutes,
yeah.
and it gets so much story in there. It's so tense. Anyway, okay, we have a lot of different thoughts in the comments about editing. John Kaufman says Oppenheimer. Um, yeah. Anyway, lots of thoughts here. So I think that's Oppenheimer. International feature. This one's pretty easy. If we have Io Capitano, Perfect Days, Society of the Snow, The Teacher's Lounge, and The Zone of Interest. I think this is obviously a Zone of Interest. It's got 5 nominations, including picture and director. It will not win those, but it will win this.
Yeah, I think, and maybe some people are wondering why Anatomy of a Fall isn't in that category. And it would have been really interesting. What a
Mhm.
race that would have been
Yeah.
if Anatomy of a Fall, but it was not submitted by France. Each country can only submit one movie, and
Mhm.
France submitted another great movie called The Taste of Things
Mhm.
with Juliette Binoche, but obviously they blew it because Anatomy of a Fall, 5 Oscar nominations, and yeah, it would have been a hell of a race between Anatomy of a Fall and The Zone of Interest. Both
Yeah, we're
five.
seeing a lot of enthusiasm for that in the comments too. A lot of folks are saying that too. I mean, if I'm going to rank the international films, I would say Zone of Interest, and then Teacher's Lounge, and then Perfect Days, and then Society of the Snow, and then Io Capitano. It just feels very weak here by comparison. But Teacher's Lounge is great too.
Yeah. Um, Society of the Snow is one that it's on Netflix. Ton
Hmm.
of people have seen it. Um, I mean, nothing's beating Zone of Interest.
No,
So,
and it deserves
and
it. It
yeah,
absolutely deserves it.
it's like the one movie, and then all the other ones are kind of many layers below.
Right. Like, good for you. You tried. All right. So, makeup and hairstyling. We have Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. This is another Poor Things one for me. And
Mm,
that's for a lot of reasons, but most of it is Willem Dafoe.
mm.
What do you think?
Um, in my Times piece, I just said by a nose because that's how. I don't know if you remember when Nicole Kidman won the
Yes.
Oscar for The Hours, playing Virginia Woolf. That's how Denzel, he opened the envelope and goes by a nose,
That's cute.
and I think that's what's going to carry Maestro again. I mean, again, it's just like dumb reason for probably Poor Things deserves it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's going to be Maestro.
Because it's not just Willem Dafoe, though, although that's, the makeup you can see, but, what they do with Emma Stone over the course of the film, how her look changes, her hair changes.
Yeah,
Hannah Shagula's hair.
I made a mistake last year and picked Elvis to win this because you had Tom Hanks as Colonel Parker, you had
Mhm.
the various Elvis looks for Austin Butler, but then um, the whale one because it's
Oh,
like the one thing. It's Bradley Cooper's nose and it was Brendan Fraser's
full
latex.
body.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah.
seeing a lot of different things in the comments here. Thomas says Maestro. Lewis Cook says he thinks Poor Things. Matthew says Maestro. Jesse says Poor Things. Nancy says Poor Things. Yeah, I mean, and as Thomas points out, Cooper's movie has to win something. Like I can imagine that it will not win anything, but
I can
maybe
too. I
makeup.
can see it not winning anything. Um, maybe
Okay.
the nose actually got a lot of. The nose was like a thing
It was
when the trailer.
controversial.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe people vote against it because of that. I don't know.
Yeah, even though Bernstein's family came out and said, like, we totally support Bradley's portrayal, I'm
Yeah,
not sure how much that matters once the idea is out there of, ooh, this is controversial. Anyway, I agree with you, Rob Crosby, that Gerard Carmichael deserves more love for his work in Poor Things. I love that whole section with him and Hannah Shagula on
mm,
the boat. That's so fun. Okay, let's do original score. Your nominees are American Fiction, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is just stupid. It's just the same John Williams Indiana Jones theme, whatever. Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. What do you pick here, Glenn Whipp?
I'm still thinking about your hatred for just one of the great legends of movies, but
Oh, for sure he's a
no, I mean
legend. This
it's
is
just
dumb.
the music branch. See, nominations are voted on by branches, and then the winners are voted
Mhm.
on by the entire academy. The music branch is just ridiculous
They are
and
weird.
very insular. So
Mhm.
Diane Warren will be nominated if she has a song, and John Williams will be nominated if he has a score.
I guess.
Oppenheimer for this
I
for
agree.
sure.
I agree,
Lot
although
of
I love
music.
the. Go ahead. I'm sorry, honey. What?
Oh no, no, no. It's just like big music for 3 hours, big themes, kind of gets into the intensity of the characters' emotions. Yeah, easy Oppenheimer for this.
Yeah, I agree. It's the music you can hear versus the music you can't hear.
Well, it's not
I,
Hans Zimmer level though.
Wom.
It's like one level below Hans Zimmer.
It's Ludwig Göransson, who is great.
Yep.
Um,
One for Black Panther.
yeah, he did like the Mandalorian score. He's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Mm-hmm.
So with Killers, it is the last collaboration between Robert Robertson and Scorsese. They worked together for so long. He died recently, so maybe there's a teensy bit of, I don't know, sentiment there. And then the Poor Thing score, as Jesse points out, the Poor Thing score is so worthy. I think so too, because like the dialogue, like the costume design, it evolves with her. And it's not just the same thing throughout. Like it's little plinky, weird, dissonant sounds in the beginning and then becomes grand and sweeping and orchestral once she's at her most eloquent, evolved state. So
I feel like there are a lot of Poor Things fans in this chat.
there are. Yeah,
I think
Brian
you've
says Poor Thing
encouraged
score was
them.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Angel the Man says Poor Things score will win. Here's the thing I learned, which was really surprising to me. I don't know if this is something you'd ever heard before. I did a Q&A on the Fox slot with Yorgos Lanthimos, Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, Rami Youssef. And one thing I learned from that was that the composer of the Poor Things score had not seen any of Poor Things before he wrote this music. Like he just came up with what he came up with based on what Yorgos Lanthimos told him. And that seems unusual to me, to not write to the imagery.
And it worked out great, didn't it?
It did. Isn't that strange though? Yeah. Kay Walton says, I wish Daniel Pemberton was nominated for Spider-Verse. That is a really good one. And Langley wants Killers to win, but I'm with you. It's going to be Oppenheimer. Okay. Original song. Speaking of Diane Warren, The Fire Inside from Flamin' Hot. I'm Just Ken from Barbie. It Never Went Away from American Symphony. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Wajaji, a song from my people from Killers?
Close enough.
Okay.
Close enough.
Apologies for not pronouncing that right. And What Was I Made For? This is when Barbie finally wins an Oscar, but it's not for I'm Just Ken. It's for What Was I Made For? Because it's that emotional moment in the vortex. I think I'm Just Ken's a better song.
I knew you were going to say that because I was flashing back to just the big smile for Gosling. So I know you're team Gosling.
I am.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Another Oscar for Billie Eilish.
Yeah. Yeah. She won for her
at the age of like 22.
Yeah. She won 24. For her Bond theme for No Time to Die a couple of years back. Yeah. I think the thing with that, why that will win, I see some love for the Dua Lipa Dance the Night song too. That is a really fun song. One thing I recall from talking to people many years ago in the music branch is that they look at not just how good is this song, but how significantly is it used within the film emotionally? Like, how does it tell the story? And What Was I Made For is at the most emotional apex of Barbie's evolution, right?
I mean, maybe, yeah, but for Ken's evolution, but you're gonna go. The Academy voters love Billie Eilish, and she was making the rounds. I don't know. Yeah, they're gonna go for, as they should. I think this song, as you say, it's Barbie. The movie is Barbie. There's a lot of there's a lot's been written, like even when Barbie came out, like stop talking about Ken. The movie's called Barbie. But Ryan Gosling was so good. How could you stop talking about that? But yeah, I think that's the song that's going to win.
Yeah, Brian says Ken is it Ken's. Go ahead.
I can't wait to see Gosling perform it though.
So fun. Yeah,
like a highlight.
I was going to mention all 5 songs that get performed on that night. Yeah, that's going to be really fun. Yeah, Brian Stout points out that Ken is at Ken's apex too. And Angel says Mark Ronson deserves a second Oscar just because of how cool he is. And then Langley says both other songs in Barbie are better than the Eilish song. But yeah, despite all the Kenergy we were all feeling here, this is gonna be maybe the only thing Barbie wins all night.
Yeah, I mean, it has good chance. It could win costumes. It could win production design. But yeah, I think maybe this is the only one I'm predicting.
Okay. Well, let's do production design next because we're in the P's now. We're going to skip over Best Picture and do that last. Okay, production design. Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. This is a very tough one, I think. But I picked Poor Things.
Yeah, me too. Because I mean, all of those cities that they recreated and did so in kind of a little bit of a inventive, heightened way. I mean, I don't know how many worlds there are in Poor Things. You start with the home, and then you start, going out to Paris and wherever else they visit. The boat.
Lisbon of Portugal.
Liner. Yeah. Paris. So it's all those worlds and just really cool, inventive ideas going into them, each one.
I totally agree with you for all those reasons. Although so much work went into Barbie and they famously ran out of pink paint all around the world and they recreated all those Barbie dream houses again, but like costume design, it's a really meticulous recreation, whereas Poor Things is wildly inventive and so richly ornate and detailed and just out there and singular. one of the things Willem Dafoe said in our Q&A was that like those books in the lab were actual like period books that he would have had, that Godwin would have had. And like that's the level of specific detail that they went into creating this space. John Kaufman says Saltburn deserved a nomination. That was a good movie in a lot of ways.
It's almost surprising Saltburn didn't get in because
For
that was
anything.
all production design. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we agree on that. Okay. Animated short. I need your help again. I've seen none of these. Letter to a Pig, 95 Senses, Our Uniform, Pachyderm, and War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko. What wins animated short?
I went with War is Over,
Mhm.
the music of John and Yoko. It won, and the only reason really I'm going for, well, two reasons. One, it won the Annie Award. That's like a animation industry award,
Yeah.
often predictive for what will win, the feature animation and animated short. So, and then John and Yoko. I mean, you know, boomers, old Academy members are love that song. I didn't like this movie at all, though. I don't think it's very good.
No.
I think it's probably the least of the five. If they're going for something more inventive and better, and Letter to a Pig, which is it's got it's school kid is learning about the listening to a Holocaust survivor describing how a pig saved him, and then it kind of morphs from that into um, a movie about spiritual awakening, and it's gets into some really heavy ideas. But again, it's like it's not exactly. I mean, the War is Over just hits you over the head with its ideas, whereas this is Letter to a Pig is a bit more abstract. I don't know. It's a better movie. I could see it
Okay.
winning either one of those.
So you'd rather see Letter to a Pig win, but you think War is Over is going to win.
Yeah. Or 95 Senses, which is the Napoleon Dynamite, Jared Hess and Joshua
Oh.
Hess. They made this movie about a condemned man who's voiced by Tim Blake Nelson, and he's musing about what senses he's going to lose first when he dies.
Oh. That sounds
That
awful.
yeah, that could win as well. It's one of those three films. Yeah, we haven't gotten to the short that I feel like most certain about.
Okay, well, we'll do that next. Real fast, I did not mention Christine. Thank you so much for your kind donation. I somehow missed it in the I'm Just Ken Billie Eilish talk. She mentions and I'm Just Ken live Ryan Gosling Simu Liu beach off. I think the world needs that. I think internationally, we all need to see that. So there you go. Okay, very good. Mike Webb says the only one I've seen is 95 Senses, but the Oscars love their sentimental, feel-good shorts like War is Over. Okay. Yeah. And John Kaufman says War is Over too. Okay, let's move on to live action short. I've seen one of these.
And you're predicting it will win.
I do indeed
I have
have
a
that
feeling.
one
Yeah.
checked off. Your nominees for live action short are The After, Invincible, Night of Fortune, Red, White, and Blue, and The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, which is the one that I've seen, which I'm assuming everyone has seen because it's on Netflix and it's a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah, I and you would think that voters would take the opportunity to finally give Wes Anderson an Oscar, right?
Does he not have one at all?
No, and a lot of nominations as
Yeah.
a writer, producer, director. But yeah, never won. So this will be it'd be a strange thing to win for,
Yeah.
and live action short. But when it's on his shelf and people see it, they'll think he just won it for Rushmore.
And deservedly so. I'm just going to pretend that it goes all the way back to Rushmore. So that's interesting because Henry Sugar is such a like jam-packed nugget of all of Wes Anderson's quirks and stylistic choices and his whole ethos. Like if people don't necessarily want to watch a whole feature-length Wes Anderson movie because it's just too much, 17 minutes of Wes Anderson are kind of like the perfect amount of time. So I think for all of those reasons, yeah. And I didn't realize he'd never had one before. So now even more so, I think he'll win for sure. Okay, sound. You and I don't agree on this one. I know this already. Let's talk about sound, which they have now merged the two sound categories into one, just called sound. The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. Glenn, what is your pick?
I am going with Oppenheimer. When I was writing the predictions piece, I was writing at length about just how powerful the sound in the Zone of Interest is. So powerful that our group, LA Film Critics, kind of gave it a special citation because of the juxtaposition between what you're seeing in the movie and what you're hearing in the background is so jarring. But then I talked myself out of the Zone of Interest winning because the Sound Guild, went with Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer. I mean, it has the Trinity test. It has the detonation. That's the sound.
That moment is startling.
When people vote in this category, they're either going to have seen the Zone of Interest and go, there can be no other choice, or they haven't seen the Zone of Interest. And, spoiler alert, not all Academy members watch all the nominees.
Yeah.
So you're going with the movie that's winning, likely. Well, we haven't gotten to picture yet.
We've not.
Could win Best Picture.
Okay.
But yeah, it's the sound, and that Trinity test. I don't know where you saw Oppenheimer, but it's literally a seat rattling moment in the theater.
I saw it in Boston, actually. I saw it at the AMC in Boston Commons with Nick and Chris in 70 millimeter. So
feels like another running adventure for you.
No, we were back east for the summer. We go to Boston and Montreal a lot, and we always end up seeing movies while we're gone. We saw Barbie in Montreal. But I saw it in 70. We're seeing a lot of different people with different picks. We have, as Angel points out, Zone of Interest, the sound is a character on its own. Chick Modest says Zone of Interest sound is absolutely perfect. Yash Srivatava, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, I don't have my glasses on, says Oppenheimer is a big flex, bombastic and hypnotic. And then we had a vote somewhere in here for Maestro. That whole scene in the cathedral, the scene that Bradley spent 6 years learning how to conduct for.
The best scene in Maestro, yeah. Yeah, I want the Zone of Interest to win. And often when I'm doing these predictions, it's like heart versus head, And sometimes when I follow my heart, then I kick myself later because how could you're just that's the one that you would vote for, but it's not the one that the Academy will vote for. But it's very much a coin flip. Could go to either one.
John Kaufman says, I missed the Best Boston Theater. It happened to be screening there, John, so that's where I had to go. But I appreciate the sentiment. Mike Webb says the Oppenheimer Zone of Interest sound off is interesting. Two very completely different World War II films and how they use sound to tell their movies. That's an excellent point. I disagree with you, my friend. This is one I'm going to differ with you on, and I'm going to say Zone of Interest because the sound design is the movie. I mean, it's so precise in the way it's shot and the performances, like the restraint of the performances is haunting. But I think enough people have seen it in a theater the way it was intended. I'm hoping, maybe I'm being idealistic, that they'll recognize how essential the sound design is to telling that story in that way.
I went back. I mean, when I saw it a second time, that was all I was doing was listening. I mean, that was my primary focus when I watched the movie a second time was just I really wanted to hear that sound mix and where it was dropping in and where it was going out and how he used it. It should win.
Okay.
I hope it does.
But you're picking Oppenheimer to win.
Actually, I don't hope I'm wrong. Really, when it comes back to the Oscars and everyone always asks me, well, what do you want to see happen? It's I just whatever I predicted. you know,
I love being right.
because I've said before, if I get all 23 or 20, it used to be 24, if I get them all right, that's it. I'm retiring. I'm just mic drop, leaving.
So it hasn't happened yet, clearly, because here
Has
you
not
are.
happened. Yeah, still waiting for that to happen.
All right. So as we're going along with our ballots here, Glenn and I don't agree on this one, but vote your conscience. Okay. Visual effects. The Creator, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Napoleon. I've got Godzilla -1 here, and maybe I'm just being idealistic, but it looks so incredibly great, and I can't believe that's a $15 million film.
Yeah, I think that's why it wins, right?
Yeah, I think that's why it wins too.
Ever nomination, first Oscar nomination for a Godzilla movie, which, I mean, you can't really like go back and go, yeah, that Godzilla should have really represented, but I mean, this one very much deserved, and yeah, that was like everyone comes out of that movie. How did they do that for $15 million? And such a cool representation of Godzilla, and the director is one of the nominees
Right.
on this, and they've been making the rounds. I think a lot of people have seen this, and I think a lot of voters have a soft spot for the Godzilla character. So it's like they're going to follow their hearts and vote for this.
Yeah, it's just
As
it's
well
so well
as
done.
yeah.
It's so seamless, and it's terrifying. Like, it's not adorable Godzilla come to be our friend and be goofy. Like, he's fearsome, and anyway, I thought it was really well done. So I'm glad, and a lot of love for Godzilla in the comments too.
Good.
Brian and Matt and Bonzo Kilborn, everyone likes Lewis, everyone likes Godzilla. So that's a good one. Let's do adapted screenplay. We're almost there, guys. American fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Zone of Interest. What wins?
This is what? I'm sorry, I zoned out.
Adapted.
I was like, how is the screenplay at the end? But it's writing. It's writing.
It's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, give me the nominees again, one more time.
American fiction.
Okay, American fiction's winning.
Don't you want to know what the other ones are?
No, I just needed the one reminder.
Barbie, like, she's based on a doll.
Yeah. Although should have been an original screenplay.
I agree, and it was at the Writers Guild, right?
Yeah. No, American fiction has won a lot of the precursors. It just won this past weekend the USC Scripter Award, which is, for adapted works. Yeah, it looks like it's going to win. I'm surprised. I would have guessed maybe Oppenheimer, adapting that 600-page book, American Prometheus, huge undertaking. I would have thought Barbie would have a lot of love in this category too, for just such an inventive, original take on IP. But I think American fiction is winning.
I think so too. It's really sharp. It's really sharp, smart satire. It's funny, but has a lot to say about our country and how we live now. And yeah, I agree. Rob says All of Us Strangers was snubbed. Lots of love for All of Us Strangers. Brian loved it as well. I am very bummed that it got nothing. Would that have been original though, right? No, it's based on a Japanese book that's adapted. I agree it belongs there. And I agree that American Fiction is going to win. Okay, original screenplay. Your nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, Past Lives.
And here's where the Academy can give an Oscar to Anatomy of a Fall.
I agree.
And Justine Triet, who's also nominated for director.
Is she? No, she's not.
Yes.
Is she?
Yes, she is.
Yes, she is. Sorry.
It's okay.
I thought it was all men, but no, she is. Yeah, you're right. I agree. I think that she wins for this. Because it's so complex. Emotionally, logistically. And I think you walk out of there not knowing what happened. I love that there's a website, didshedoit.com, and you can vote yes or no.
Yeah. And you walk out of the movie. It's interesting that both of these films, American Fiction and Anatomy of Fall, are about writers too. And so I
Mm.
think that works in their favor in terms of subconsciously how voters regard the screenplay.
We have quite a bit of love in the comments for The Holdovers and Past Lives. Do either of these films have a chance?
I think Holdovers more, but for
Mhm.
some reason Holdovers, there was a I guess it was around the Paul Giamatti In and Out episode. But like, yeah, back in the day, it felt like Holdovers could be sort of the emotional movie that played on voters' hearts and be like a good alternative to Oppenheimer in the Best Picture race. But that never
Mm.
really happened. And I could see the Holdovers winning this though. But think I think Anatomy of a Fall has more support among people I've talked with, and it I think has won a couple of the precursors where Holdovers has not, or it's won more precursors than Holdovers.
Yeah. And I love Past Lives because we have a lot of love for Past Lives here. Kay Walton, Brian Stout. It's so delicate and so lovely and understated and so emotionally true. I'm happy it's in here, but it's not going to win.
Yeah, it's not going to win for all the reasons that you just said. For all the reasons it's great.
It's
I
too
mean,
understated.
yeah, exactly. Too subtle.
It's the writing you can see versus the writing you can't see. I'm just going to keep going to
Sadly.
that.
Yeah.
It's multi-purpose. Okay, let's do director. Because you mentioned Justine Triet. We have Anatomy of a Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Zone of Interest. So that's Justine Triet, Scorsese, Nolan, Yorgos Lanthimos, Jonathan Glazer. Who wins?
Yeah, I think we've reached the end of our program here where I mean, yeah, this is Nolan's year, right?
Mhm.
Nolan finally, well, Nolan finally gets his Oscar. Nolan's going to get multiple Oscars.
Yeah.
Could get as many as 3 if he does win adapted screenplay. But this is a slam dunk for Nolan. He won the Directors Guild Award.
That's big.
Yeah.
I agree. It's such an achievement. And it's funny, as you well know, the Oscars went to 10 possible nominees in Best Picture because The Dark Knight didn't get in, right? And so I feel like this is a culmination of that whole campaign to finally, if finally we can honor Nolan for being the master craftsman storyteller that he is.
Yeah. And it's not a comic book movie, which they would never give him the Oscar for one of the Dark Knight movies, or even Inception, maybe too sci-fi, you know.
Mm.
Tenet too weird and
Incomprehensible.
incomprehensible. Yeah. So he's finally made a movie in the genre that the Academy likes to honor.
Right. It's World War II.
Yeah.
It's America. Yeah, okay. So I agree with you. I think it's Nolan. Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. This is Nolan's night and it's Oppenheimer's night.
Yeah. It's the 11th. Oppenheimer's already won DGA, Directors Guild, Producers Guild,
Yeah.
and won the Screen Actors Guild Ensemble Award.
Yeah.
So 11 movies have done that trifecta, and all but one of them have gone on to win the Best Picture Oscar.
Can you name some of the movies that have also won that trifecta?
Well, Everything Everywhere All at Once did last year. No Country for Old Men, Argo would be other ones. Can you name the one that didn't, though?
No. I'm not the fountain of knowledge
13.
that you are. Oh, interesting.
Apollo 13.
would never have guessed
Braveheart won over Apollo 13. It's funny to remember back. There was like a genuine gasp in the theater when Braveheart won Best Picture.
that. So funny. The other day, my son's cross country coach was talking to him about the Oscars. because he knows who I am and what I do and all that. And he was mentioning what a travesty it was when Dances with Wolves won over Goodfellas.
Wow. Wow. Real cineast. I like this coach.
He is. No, he's great. He's a journalist. So his brain's all full of stuff like ours. But yeah, I can't recall like the last time that kind of big shocking thing happened. I mean, I guess Crash winning over Brokeback Mountain.
Well, I mean, if Moonlight had actually won the way it normally would have won, that would have been a moment.
Mm-hmm.
As it was, it still was a moment. It was just a fucked up moment, but
Yeah,
a
a lot of
moment
folks talking about
nonetheless.
Crash and Brokeback Mountain, King's Speech being The Social Network. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but by the time, yeah, I don't know if that King's Speech was sort of inevitable. That was in peak Weinstein
Yeah.
company campaigning.
Yeah.
But yeah, that hasn't aged well, has it?
No, and then Coda over Dune or Power of the Dog. Yeah. But Darius, Coda speaks to the thing that Glenn alluded to a little bit ago about, the possibility of a movie like The Holdovers winning over Oppenheimer. It's not going to happen, but there was like a glimmer of that idea floating out there for a bit. The idea that Academy voters want to feel good coming out of a movie, and Green Book makes them feel good. Everything Everywhere makes them feel good. Parasite doesn't make them feel good, but it's excellent. But that feels like an anomaly to me increasingly, Parasite winning Best Picture. But like Oppenheimer doesn't make you feel good, but as you say, it's inevitable.
Yeah, yeah. It's still weird to think about Coda winning Best Picture, isn't it? So I was on Apple the other night, and it's like it very buried on Apple, but it's like it's Apple's, the company that brought you. And how much did they spend on Killers of the Flower Moon?
Oh, right.
$200 million at least, right?
Well, shoot, they spend 15 million per episode on the morning show. So
every dollar of it is on the screen, right?
that money is out there. Good. So then let's talk about tallying things, right? So according to my calculations, Oppenheimer gets 6, but you say you think it's going to get 7?
Is it 7 or 8?
Well,
Okay,
there's
it's
one we were different
picture,
on.
director, actor, supporting actor, cinematography, score, editing, and
Editing.
sound. I have it as 8.
Oh, right. I have 7. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have it at sound, and I have zone of interest. And then I have Poor Things getting costume design and makeup and production design.
And I have it with production design and costume, so 2. Is there no
Okay.
other movie that's going to win more than 2? God, it's going to really be an Oppenheimer night, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see.
No, that's
No,
it.
American Fiction will win too, because
Okay.
Dave Joy Randolph will win,
Well,
and it
that's
will win for
Holdovers, though.
screenplay.
No, you're confusing.
Yeah, you're right. The Holdovers. Yeah, you're right. So
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah, the Holdovers. That's right. Want to know why? I conflate Giamatti and Jeffrey Wright's characters in my head because they're essentially the same guy, right?
They are
They'd be
disgruntled
friends.
educators. Yes,
They would be reluctant friends. They would hate each other at first.
they would, but then over a drink, they might learn to like each other. That would be a
Yeah.
movie, right? Somebody
Yeah.
should write that movie.
Okay, so I think Zone of Interest is going to win more than one. I think Zone's going to win international feature and sound.
Okay, I hope so. I hope you're right.
And Barbie wins just one. And Maestro perhaps wins nothing.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Anyway, cool. Glenn, where will you be on Oscar night? What will you be doing?
I am live blogging the show with another columnist at the time, so I'm just going to be at home watching, which is an interesting experience because when you're live blogging the Oscars, usually, it's pretty routine, but like unless somebody comes up on stage and assaults somebody presenting an award, and then you're
That's
like
true.
sitting there going, well, what do I write about this in real time? Fortunately, we had a lot of people at the show, and we were getting feeds backstage, but That's what I'm doing. What are you doing, Christy?
Well, it's funny you mentioned, you guys, I'm thinking about doing a live stream on Oscar night. I'm thinking about doing a vertical live stream because YouTube is trying to encourage more of that kind of thing. And I've been enjoying experimenting with it. So I'm thinking about going live from that couch right there and just like what if you guys are around. I'm thinking about doing a live Oscar watch party, just me and my phone, and maybe Baxter will sit in the couch next to me and you can see Chris in the background making chili, and Nick will sit next to me and make snarky comments. So I'm thinking about doing that. That might be a fun thing to do. But I covered the Oscars live for like 10 years, and that was kind of fun. You know, it's fun to get dressed up, see who's short.
Have you asked Baxter if he's on board with this idea?
Baxter is high on gabapentin all the time and just sleeps a lot. My poor elderly dog. So sad and hobbled. So he'll hang out. He's very cozy. If he doesn't snore too loud, he's invited to my live stream. So yeah, I might just be here. And thanks to all you guys for the nice encouragement. Jesse and Lewis and John and Teddy and Langley, thanks for the encouragement. Hi to Baxter from Christine. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks, Nancy. So I think I'll do that. It's nice to just hang out and just enjoy it. But it's sort of fun to watch with other people, even virtually. So I might do that. Yes. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your contributions. Thank you for your time in the middle of the day. Glenn Whipp, the legend of all awards coverage. Where can folks find you?
LAtimes.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about like on your Instagram? Do you post pictures of like what you ate for breakfast, that kind of thing?
No, I'm not really a social. You know this. I'm not really a social media person. So I like to live my life offline. You're an inspiration.
I try.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to everyone. You're the best. And keep us posted on how your Oscar picks are coming. And I will post something. I'll have a link for a vertical live stream. You can, hit notify me so you don't forget. And let's just hang out. Great. Angel, thank you. Good to see you. It can be. Thank you. Leo, Jesse, you're always the best. Great to have you here. Teddy, yes, be sure to drink Coffee Brothers coffee during the live stream. Can't imagine how else I'm going to stay awake for 4 hours, Teddy. You got to have the Coffee Bros coffee. Thanks, Darius. And Glenn, you're the best. I really appreciate you. Thanks for taking time during a busy time of your world. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Bye.